Hello, everybody. This is your boy, the Saint Eternal One, Saint Dez, and we are getting ready to do something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time, and it's something that I think will be an enjoyment for anyone and everyone that has seen anything in the world of professional wrestling. And what I want to do is a combination of one of the greatest games of all time, Total Extreme Wrestling, and we're gonna merge it with Fire Pro Wrestling World. We're gonna make a YouTube series of it, and we're going to try our best to run a federation from the ins and the outs and make one heck of a YouTube series. And what we're going to call this YouTube series is the Southern Championship Class Wrestling Reborn. And it is a TEW 2016 and Fire Pro Wrestling World YouTube series. And as I said, the objective of this is trying our best to take the Southern Championship Class Wrestling, bring it back to life, and we're going to go forward from there and see where we can go as far as this is concerned. So here's where we are with this particular YouTube series. This is the SCCW Reborn story. Saint Dez, me and myself, have won the lottery and has used $100,000 to purchase from the bank the SCCW, and he is reopening the Southern Championship Class Wrestling organization. Saint Dez went out of his way to hire some out of work wrestlers to reform the SCCW. And to add insult to injury, Saint Dez, as you're going to find out, is one extremely evil individual. He hires the former owner of SCCW, Saint Sneer, to be a color commentator because he has those skills. But it may backfire because Shane Sneer is determined to either regain the SCCW or ruin it entirely. So what we got is already a backdrop of this YouTube series. We got where Saint Dez, he just got through winning the lottery. He wants to open up, this wrestling organization because he's based, his location is in the southeastern part of the United States. And one of the things that was going popular during his growing up time was the Southern Championship Class Wrestling. Well, Shane Sneer was the owner of that wrestling for a long time, and I want to say it was in 2003 or 2005 it went under. What St. Dez have done, he went to the bank, paid off all of the debt and loans and all of that, and he have basically bought all of the trademarks and rights to have the Southern Championship Class Wrestling to be his now. And now, to add insult to injury, he goes and asks Shane Sneer to actually be a color commentator. Now, Shane Sneer, which is a tongue twister, he is going to be a commentator, but he has this plan of actually trying to regain his former company because he didn't like the way that it went under, but he's thinking maybe I can take this away from the St. Dez because he don't have any true history, no true ownership mentality. So he's thinking, can I get this back from him? And if I can't, then what I'm going to do is ruin it from within. So that's pretty much our story right now. Now, this is how this concept is actually set up. The Total Extreme Wrestling, as I was telling you, TEW 2016 is going to be using the inner workings of the company from behind the scene. Everything from hiring and firing to how the world views us as a company is done here. Fire Pro Wrestling World is the way we will actually see the major matches. So any major match will be viewed by using this game, and it's how we present the show to the world. Every show from angle to matches will be done inside of TEW 2016. And all match results will be determined by me as far as the directions of angles except for major matches and pay-per-views. Every major match will be simmed by Fire Pro Wrestling World in a CP versus CP match, or what we would also call computer versus computer. The winner of the matches are then entered into TEW 2016 to get the overall outcome. And note, however, Pro Wrestling World chooses the winner will determine how we will continue or create new storylines. So this is what I want us to take away as we're thinking about this new, pretty much YouTube series. When you think about the wrestling world in general, when you think of like a WWE or you think about AEW or even Ring of Honor or Impact Wrestling, anything like that, you think of what you see on TV every day. As far as every time they have a show, you see what the wrestlers are doing, how they beat up each other, and all of that. So you're viewing it through that particular eyes as a viewer. But then when you want to become a quote unquote smart fan, you start reading any type of tabloids or going on any type of YouTube channels, and you want to find out what is someone that Dave Meltzer is saying about the workings of the company. Well, we're going to have the hands-on inside look of what the Southern Championship Class Wrestling is all about, because we're going to be looking at how people are hired and fired, as well as we're going to be seeing how people get upset with each other and things. So we're going to see literally actually three versions of this. We're going to see how the website is viewing us, which is going to be done through TEW 2016. We're going to also be working as St. Des as the owner, and we'll see how we are viewing people as far as when we have creative meetings, how they're actually rated as champions, how we are actually getting broadcast deals and things like that. And then we're going to be using Fire Pro Wrestling to actually put on the actual shows as far as wrestling matches. So one of the main goals is we're going to try to use Fire Pro Wrestling World to actually show an entire pay-per-view for the Southern Championship Class Wrestling. So we're going to use it as a way to let us as a actual fan see what is actually going on. Now, if you know anything about TEW 2016 or any other versions of TEW, you know it's one of the most extensive, detailed simulation games, period. You can say wrestling, but it's one of the most detailed games ever. And you can literally create and do whatever you want within this game. So when we said that we're going to be simulating and coming up with angles and matches, I mean, we can come up with angles and matches, and anything and everything can happen just like it can in real life. And then using Fire Pro Wrestling World, we're going to be seeing some of the most detailed playability type game, play out in front of us. So we'll see some of the best matches that you can actually come up with. And even though a lot of people may be fans of WWE 2K versions of WWE or No Mercy fans, anyone that is a true fan of Fire Pro Wrestling and any version of it know that it's a reason that it is a cult favorite among a lot of the wrestling world. So one of the things I want us to do is just remember, as we get ready to go forward into this is what we're working on, and this is what I hope that we can achieve with this. So let's go ahead and introduce you to the show and to everything that we're trying to do. Right now, what you're going to see is you're seeing pretty much the Southern Championship Class Wrestling. This view right here is when we're in the owner's view. So whenever we are doing anything in this particular view, we are trying our best to see what is going on as far as storylines, the stables that we'll have, the way the product is being viewed, teams, all of that. So what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to get ready to break down to us some of the roster, what our product value is as far as what we are as far as a company is viewed as, and just a little bit to just let us know who we are, period. So here we go. Here is our roster. AKA, we have first Ace Youngblood. So when you see Ace Youngblood, we see that Ace Youngblood is, and it didn't show it for me. So you already see that we have a glitch already. But the best way to do this, I'll read it out to you. Here's all of our true wrestlers and people of that status. Right now, Ace Youngblood is a genuinely part Native American. He wears a distinctive red streak down the center of his hair to represent this, and sometimes come to the ring dressed in traditional war clothes. He also uses the tomahawk chop as a major attacking move, as it is determined by wrestling law. In years of toiling on the indie scene, Ace was hired by Mid-Atlantic Wrestling in 2008, apparently having caught Mean Gene Cadillac and went on to form an excellent and highly successful tag team with Max Mayhem. Youngblood moved on in early 2015, following the unwritten rule of Maul, which is that once you peak, you move on to let new blood take your place on the roster. So one of our first characters is Ace Youngblood. So we're going to keep him in mind. Then we have Chip Conda. Chip Conda is a brawler from Maine who graduated from Pride Driver School of Wrestling in 2012. A straight ahead fist fighter who doesn't possess much in the way of technique or stability. Chip's best hope of making a good career for himself is to find his way into a company that values old school brawls. In 2015, he works a dark match for PSW, but nothing seems to have come of it since. So we got Chip Conda. Now, when we see Dane O'Hara, he's basically his announcer that we're going to have. So the Great Dane is Dane O'Hara. I could go into information about him, but one of the things to just know that he's a pretty decent announcer and color commentator. We also have Grace Harper, who is a color commentator. And one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have a mixture of two color commentators and an announcer on our production team, and we're going to have a 3-man, announcing team. Well, man/woman. So Grace Harper is one of our other commentators. Then we're going to go to Jack Griffin. Southern Justice. So Jack Griffin was at one time one of the hottest prospects in wrestling. They debuted him for Shane Sneer's Southern Championship Class Wrestling in 2000. He fast became one of their brightest stars, winning their main singles title on 2 occasions and showcasing great natural ability. However, backstage problems and growing dependency on alcohol sent him into a downward spiral. For years, he pretty much entirely disappeared from wrestling as he fought his demons instead of opponents. He made such a herald return in 2007, working a handful of shows for Dave just before its closure. But sadly, all it proved was that time and alcohol had not been kind, and that Griffin was clearly a shell of the exciting athlete he was in 2001. So right here, we're going to see that Jack Griffin is one of the main event stalwarts and pretty much focal points of Southern Championship Class Wrestling. But we already see that alcohol was one of his problems in the past, and we're going to have to see if this is going to play a role in his pretty much his career going forward. And at 40 years old, is he already past his prime? Next person we have is Jedediah. Excuse me, y'all. So Jedediah is a big brawler who works the Amish gimmick. Standing at 6'11" and weighing over 300 pounds, Jedediah is not someone you want to get into a fist fight with. But with his size, obscures and is the fact that he's actually a very good athlete who has some great high-flying moves in his arsenal when he wants to use them. His 5-year run with RIPW has been his most notable work thus far, with his 2013 U.S. title win being his career highlight. So right now we have a nice young star in Jedediah, and we're going to see if he's going to be able to build upon a surely hopeful, career that hasn't just been favorable for him since he been looking for work. So now we have Jez MacArthur, and he's pretty much a referee. So now we got Kazmir Singh, one of the few Indian boy pro wrestlers. Kazmir Singh is a pretty good all-rounder who densely muscle physique gives him incredible power for someone of his size. He spent his early career entirely in Puerto Rico, and so it came as no surprise his Puerto Rican powered LCW promotion signed him up shortly after they began. What was a surprise was that the previous straight-laced and traditional Kazmir debuted with bleached blonde hair and a spectacular sequined robe, calling himself the sensational Scene. The new gimmick, apparently, the idea of head booker Sean Gonzalez. Let me say that again, y'all. Apparently, the idea of head booker Sean Gonzalez went down a storm and gave Sling a whole new lease of life. Now, here's the key. Sadly for him, he got into a huge argument over pay with Puerto Rican Power in 2015 and ended up being kicked out of the company entirely. So right now, we have a pretty good, decent athlete. He has all the credentials, but did one of the things we got to look into with this is, did his attitude, is it going to be a problem for us as we go forward with, the SCCW, or will we be able to ride his coattails and lead this into a top company? Now we got Lazy Joe. So Lazy Joe, a.k.a. Joseph Loeb, and it may be Lobe, well, I'm going to call him Loeb, is a fairly unremarkable heavyweight brawler from Chicago. When he first broke into the business with Southern Championship Class Wrestling, he worked as the cigarette wielding Smokey Joe, an alcohol-fueled fist fighter who was a solid mid-carder for the company. Since the demise of CCW, he had switched to the ring name Lazy Joe and run a gimmick from being a cranky insomniac. He joined Pittsburgh Steel Wrestling in 2007, his first run with a named group in several years, but found himself unable to really achieve a great deal and eventually left with little fanfare in mid-2011. He is now back in the familiar surroundings of the independent scene. So we have our next wrestler who have came out of the SCCW first stint as a company, and he actually was someone important, but after it folded, he basically went on the independent scene. It just kind of fell off. So now we're going to see if he's going to be able to put everything back together, or if he's going to just continue to just fall off the scenes. So now we have one of our road agents. His name is Lee White. We have another referee. His name is Matthew White. And now we have the wrestler Max Mayhem. Max Mayhem is a high flyer who was a regular on the Canadian independent scene from 2004 until mid-2006, using the ring name Too Extreme Randy Max. At that point, he had made enough of a name for himself that he caught the attention of Maul, and he signed with them in August. Considering a talented but raw and undisciplined worker, he was exactly the sort of person that Maul loved to bring in and polish up. At the suggestion of Ripcord, he switched to his current ring name when he joined Maul. He went on to form a great tag team with Ace Youngblood, and they were regular champions together. Having achieved pretty much all he was going to, he left Maul under admirable circumstances in 2014. So we understand that Mid-Atlantic Wrestling has this way of bringing in this either raw talent or the young talent, and they build them up so far and then they let them go. So Ace Youngblood and Max Mayhem was real good there at the stint with the company, but when they left, neither one of them have been able to just hold on tight to any type of wrestling group since they left. So we're wondering, will we be able to actually use them to our advantage in the SCCW, or will they just pretty much continue to fade off the scene since of their glory days there in Maul? Now we got Michaela Milk. Michaela Full Fat Milk is a Hawaiian wrestler who is best known for his 6 year spell with Raw, which happened during his time living in Australia. Ultra charismatic in a goofy sort of way, Michaela seems to have an intimate ability to connect with the fans. He is nothing special in the ring, but neither does he need to be given his showmanship. Never more than a solid mid-carder in Raw, Milk eventually grew bored and decided to return home to Hawaii in 2015. So as you see, he was going to stay in Hawaii, but we wind up bringing him off to the southern, the southeast part of the United States. So that just shows the draw power of who we are as a pretty much, I guess you would say, owner of a company. I'm going to skip the Old English and St. Des for the last two so that you can pretty much see why. Now we have Ray Snow. Ice Cold Ray Snow is a hard-hitting wrestler from Minnesota. And all business type, Snow comes to the ring ready for war and unleashes stiff strikes and precision wrestling without much in the way of his directives or playing to the crowd. He has a 3.5 year run with IPW from 2011 onward, his first taste of fame. But while his matches were generally very good, it was not to the ring atmosphere for him, and he failed to win over the fans. So Ray Snow, he's one of those wrestlers. He's got a pseudo style. So it's like he has that true pro wrestling style in a Japanese sense, but he's here in America. And if you're not blending with the right crowds, will he actually blend in with us? Because we're going that old school Southern wrestling style. So is he going to fit, or will he just fall out of favor with us as a company? And that's what we're going to see. As I say, we're going to skip St. Des. And then we got Seiko Naomi, and she's pretty much a Raw agent. And now we got Sergeant Bubba Lee West. So Sergeant Bubba Lee West is a genuine former Army Ranger who began wrestling professionally shortly after leaving the armed forces. Super tough and totally believable as a sadistic psycho, he makes a great heel, and since his debut in 2008 has developed into a fine brawler. So right now we have Sergeant Bubba Lee West, who is a true, legit Army person, and he's sitting here being an Army Ranger. He's basically is going to play that gimmick of psycho, and he's got all the tools to be, legit. So will he be able to take it to the next level or what? Now, I'm going to go ahead and skip Saint Sneer. And then we got Sweet Tabatha, and she is a young valet from Los Angeles, an excellent singer and dancer. She got into the wrestling as a way of adding to the income she gets when she's working in musicals and other shows. She had very little knowledge of wrestling, but certainly has the look and charisma to make a splash. So we have Sweet Tabatha. She is going to be a manager, and if I remember correctly, she's going to be with Ace Youngblood, and Max Mayhem. So yes, so pretty much we see that she is going to be their manager. So we're going to see this beautiful young woman. Hopefully she'll be able to make a name for herself, and we'll see how she's going to blend in that old school Southern wrestling form, because very seldom did you see managers in the Southern Wrestling Federations, and when you did, they was very, very effective as interfering, or they were very effective on the mic. So we're going to see how she plays out in her role. So now we have Tank Bradley. The energetic brawler John Tank Bradley is best known for his work as one half of the tag team, the New Jersey Devils, alongside Alex Braun, a duo who has major success in Dave, where they were one of the most popular teams in the company. They headed to PSW after Dave's demise, but split shortly after so that Braun could concentrate on his solo career. Tank floundered without his partner to cover for him, his in-ring flaws being badly exposed, and he eventually left in early 2012. Prior to the Devils, Bradley originally broke into the sports with Southern Championship Class Wrestling, where he worked under his real name as a glorified enhancement. Many feel that this was his natural level in the sport. So another mainstay in the original form of Southern Championship class wrestling is Tank Bradley. He's trying to come back, and they said he really wasn't that big of a deal at the time, but showing now that he made a name for himself when he was in a tag team with Alex Braun. We're going to see if he's going to be able to move forward from there. Now we got Timberly Langston, and if you ever see it in Fire Pro Wrestling World, his name is Timble, but more on that when we get to that part. But Timberly Langston is a big, hard-hitting, ultra-tough country boy from Iowa who is in a regular tag team with partner Wooten Fitzpain as the Good Old Boys. They have been gaining a reputation for the wild, brawling ways on the local independent scene when they somehow came to the attention of Pittsburgh Steel Wrestling head booker Alex Braun. He saw their potential, commented they were like an American version of the McWade brothers, and quickly signed them up. They won their first major championship, the PSW Tag Team titles, in 2008, but ultimately that was the highlight of their otherwise poor run with the company, and they left quietly in 2010. They are now back working in the independent scene. So now you're seeing one half of the Good Old Boys, Timberly, Langston. So we see that they had a good run there with that title with the PSW, but then it has kind of fell off. So we signed them to come in. And if you notice, right now, Shane Sneer is their manager. And I'm going to go into that when we talk about Shane Sneer. And now, we talk about Willie York. The Colorado Kid, Willie York, was formerly a professional MMA fighter, but after getting knocked out one too many times, he switched from being training to become a professional wrestler instead. A legit tough guy, he incorporates a lot of MMA moves in his arsenal. Willie was a member of the Inspire roster during its 3-year run between 2006 and 2009. And while never being a huge success, he was a member of the mid-card. He was not seen for many years after the company's demise, only returning in late 2014 when he started regularly working the American independent scene. So one of the things we're going to find out about the Colorado Kid, Willie York, is he was also a legitimate tough guy, just like Sgt Bubbles West. He was a true MMA fighter who has the true skills to actually do the things to let everyone know that, hey, I'm for real. But will that be able to translate to a championship win here in the new SCCW? And then we got Wooten Fitzpain. So Wooten Fitzpain is one half of the Good Old Boys, along Timberly Langston, a physical tag team from Iowa. The two big fist fighters came to the attention of Pittsburgh Steel Wrestling booker Alex Braun in 2007, and he quickly brought them into the company, seeing that wild brawling ways as something that would appeal to the hostile tri-state crowds. Although they started their mainstream careers brightly, winning the PSW tag team titles toward the end of 2008, the Good Old Boys faded fairly quickly when it became clear that they were simply not good enough in the ring nor entertaining enough to cover the fact. They quietly left the promotion in 2010. So again, we're hearing that they're not supposed to be all of that, flashy and good, but what they experienced together was, will the backing of Shane Sneer behind them actually help them have a great career, or are they just someone that's going to weigh down the roster here in the SCCW? Now, let's talk about Shane Sneer. Shane Sneer is a veteran of the wrestling business who is probably best known to modern fans for his lengthy run in the USPW, where he was the premier manager, occasionally color commentator, and the head booker up until his departure in 2014. Older fans, however, will remember that he was also the owner of Southern Championship Class Wrestling, an attempt to run the true old-school Southern promotion in Tennessee, which is fondly remembered for its heated storylines and great characters. So we see Shane Sneer as that old-school heel, and he's basically back to try to prove that he's got one good run left in him, and he basically is thinking, can I get back my company, or will he be nothing more than a pretty much overhyped manager that should have hung up the boots a long time ago. Now, we have Old English. After winning the lottery, Old English, the nephew of St. Dez, bought the rights to Southern Championship Class Wrestling from the bank after its closure. With some training in wrestling as its lifelong dream, Old English is going with St. Ives to venture out into the world of professional wrestling. So here is one of St. Dez's closest allies, aka his nephews, Old English. And if you actually is playing TEW 2016, his real name is Knuckles. But I actually used Knuckles and Shady K as the two members to actually make these two not only a tag team, but to actually let them have some type of cohesiveness to build upon. So when you see them, the only thing that's going to be changed with Old English is his name and his tag team name. So to let you know that that's what's going on with Old English. Now, St. Dez. After winning the lottery, St. Dez and his nephew brought the rights to Southern Championship Class Wrestling from the bankers after its closure. With some training in wrestling, it was a lifelong dream. St. Dez ventures out into the world of professional wrestling as an owner, hoping to take SCCW to the next level of success. So, what you see with St. Dez is the only thing I truly changed with him is the name from Shady K to St. Dez. And he's able to be a wrestler, commentator, and announcer. And I am not going to play. I've maxed out all of his motivation stuff. So if you know of that shortcut thing, his user talents, I gave him max in that so that I would have that type of ability to work. And anyone that have played TEW 2016 no matter how many cheats you put in, it's not going to matter if you don't understand the game concept. You'll lose anyway. So that was the only true thing that I have put in as a cheat that you would say is a true cheat. So from there, we have just completed the roster. I will show you the tag teams. That tag teams is the Dark Lokes. Even though it's spelled funny, it's the Dark Lokes. And as I said, the finisher is the Death Sentence. And they was, as it says, the SWF World Tag Team Champs for pretty much a month. Then I came up with Lazy Perfection, which is Kazmir Singh and Lazy Joe. And then we have Ace, the Aces of Mayhem. And that is Ace, Youngblood, and Max Mayhem. And the Good Old Boys. And that's Timberly, Langston, and Wooten Fitzpain. So that's pretty much the tag teams. And let's see, to show you the schedule that we got going on. Here's going to be our current schedule for the current schedule for it is going to be every Sunday. We're going to have the SCCW wrestling event. It's going to be 2 hours. Then we're going to have a pay-per-view in April, one in August, November, and December. So the first pay-per-view is the Storms of April. And then in August, we're going to have Rising Heat of August. And in November is Wrestle Tournament. And then in December is December Avalanche. So to just let you know, these is pretty much the pay-per-views and our events, as we currently do not have any TV shows. So just to kind of give you a heads up on what's going on there. So now, to kind of let you know where we're going, and I'm not going to show you the storylines. I am going to go to the product. So now, when you see the product, I didn't change anything. I allowed it to stay the way that it was. And our style name is Old School Wrestling. So pretty much it's gonna think more on events, and it's gonna be 80% events and 70% if we have a TV. So match intensity is gonna be 50%. Match danger is 15%. We do have a heel and face divide, and we're gonna have pretty much the traditional as our key feature. Realism and hardcore is gonna be medium. Pretty much what you remember. If you ever looked, the best way to look at this is the old school NWA when Ric Flair was champion there before it was WCW. And if you looked at any of the Memphis wrestling back in the day, this is what this is basically going to be based off of. And this is the basically just tell you what the traditional product is. When you think about traditional as far as this product appeal definition, this element of being traditional is referring to old school mindset of kayfabe, good and evil storytelling in an athletically minded contest. Basically, what wrestling should be, it's the American version of what the new Japan Pro Wrestling is today. It's pretty much, it should be the storytelling is being done in the ring and not the sports entertainment field that WWE have. Another way to think of it is almost how Ring of Honor have tried its best to keep its style of wrestling more of we're going to tell the story in the ring and not through a whole lot of storylines. So let's see what else we have. As of right now, I think that is going to be all I'm going to do with this. This right here, as I said, is a great overview of what we got going on. I will show you that as of right now, we are ranked 32, and that's our money, which is $83,750. And we have a show that will be tonight. So when I get ready to come back, I'm going to literally break down as a show and to really go into it the way the shows will be, and I will put it into the next episode. We will have each show, and when we get to our pay-per-view, we will go with Fire Pro Wrestling for that, as far as showing you the wins and losses as far as that. And remember, we have the angles and everything. We're going to see how the crowd likes or dislike what we do, but then from there, when we get to the pay-per-view, if wrestler A loses to wrestler B, then we will have to use that information to see how we're going to continue with our next storylines and stuff. So I hope that this is something that everyone is going to enjoy, and please leave a comment below. Tell me if you like what you think, what you see so far, and I hope that you continue to be with me through this whole process and this excitement that I have for this particular YouTube series. Thank you.